One. Right. I hope none of my trackers actually start to fly off.
I'm so tired of playing with this bow and arrow. Gonna give my heart away, leave it to the other girls to play. For I've been a temptress too long. Yes,
Why, hello, Stars.
give me a reason to
Rock,
love you.
pretty much Gen's fan.
Give
Wonder
me
if you're a
a
fan of the
reason
Proto Gens.
to be.
My goodness. Jiton Ilet has decided to subscribe for another month, totaling
I just wanna be
5 months now. My goodness, quite a long amount of support you've been running. Thanks. Hello, Cat Spread, Teaser, Fluffy. You have an energy drink. Good for you. Let's see if all my cameras are working properly. This has been one. Been two. Yes. So you can see my right foot still is randomly flying around. I don't know why. Are you doing alright, Gib? Yes, I am. Thanks for asking. A stream where I'm actually not sleepy. Congratulations, Molly. I take it you didn't have that much of a busy day today, hence you're able to
No ads for me, and I get to support you.
stay. Hello, chat, Vesper and Gib. Hi, Vas. I hope you're doing okay with your schoolwork. Camera a bit high. I'm in my setting up phase of the stream, so pardon me. Here, okay.
So don't you stop being a man.
That's good.
Just take a little look from outside when you came.
Hi there, Blue.
So
Ah, song such a mood. How should I entertain myself? Well, my car is being serviced today. Bad life advice by Teaser. It's simple. You go and quote unquote help the mechanic servicing your car. That way you're entertained and it lasts 3 times as long.
give me a reason to be.
The bracelet. Everything's complete. My watch is finally displaying the proper numbers. Well,
Just so
proper-ish. Alien Schmuck says, I love you. Why? Thank you. Famously, mechanics always love customer input. Not here. Be Zeph and Fluffy about to watch Dark Knight. Didn't you say that last time, Blue? What am I listening to?
it's time to move on. So I'm so tired of playing.
I actually like it. I'm gonna listen to it again later.
With this bow and arrow, gonna give my heart away.
There we go. No, that was Batman Begins. Ah, you're going for the trilogy, I see. Alright. Honestly, I think it's the best Batman of all. Heath Ledger, 10 out of 10. Hello, Mitzi. Did Batman end up beginning? I mean, it was the origin story at first, right? He went to the well and whatnot, and the bats, and invisible cup. It's actually an invisible drinking bottle. There. Fluffy Gamer says, I love your content and love your motivating speech. I remember seeing you commenting on one of my videos. It's either TikTok or Instagram. Thanks. Weird. There's another Fluffy here. Hmm. Hello, Dan. The other Fluffy here is the one who is entertained by the inline four lady Indian sounds. The ba ba ba. Stop, Geb. It's too early in the stream. Do not meme yourself. Anyway, good morning. Hi there. It's actually 12:50 a.m. here, so you're kind of spot on with the time. Your design tickles my autism. I never got the chance to see you live until now. Hello, hello, surprised to see you live. Hello, Waffle Carp. Wow. I'm sitting in a new position by my room. It's a little, whoa, a little toasty. How is the internet now? Is it all fixed? Yes. Except my trackers are not. Why do you do that? Why specifically on this spot on the floor? Should I like turn or pivot here? Hold on, let me put my interface there, enlarge it. Wow, wow, woo. Perfect. Maybe here, maybe there, maybe there. Good. Right. I'm glad to hear that it's all past. The floor is just cursed. I don't know. Maybe my neighbor installed a router, like drilled it into their ceiling. It's directly underneath where I'm stepping. I, I mean, I can just move, but eh. Oh, well. The floor is lava. Yes. So why is there static? So, how is everybody? I did say I was gonna stream, but that was supposed to be yesterday. I figured I would rather space it out every other day, so there's today, break day tomorrow, which is usually when I stream, but I can't. And then there's Saturday, which I will stream again, right? Saturday, then back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the last bit of our October. Christmas is just around the corner, chat. Can you believe it? My goodness. You better buy your gifts early, chat. For those of you that buy last minute into the malls, you know how packed it can be. The Space Broman. Hi, Geb. My first live stream and I'm already loving it. Welcome to my live streams. The longer versions of the clips that I post on my social media. Nox says I discovered your content yesterday doom scrolling. I was never one to watch live streams, but I'm glad I could catch one. You know what? Same here, man. I'm not really a big stream fan. It's like I would watch streams, maybe clips of Queso, see what he's up to on Twitch, and that's it. I've never been one to linger for long. That's why I am thankful for you guys that decide to go, well, hang around as long as you have. I'm not sure how you can stand 2.5 hours of me 3 times a week. What's this? What's your favorite holiday, Gab? The Christmas season. Do you have any face reveal planned for the future? Any milestones? Or do you keep everything a mystery and keep being the handsome detective? You're looking at my visage right now, are you not? Am I wearing a mask? Maybe I need to set the third camera to like something better angled. Like this. Camera 2 can see me walking. Hello, chat. Oh, dramatic. Lighting. What do you know? A bit too early for the dramatic scenes, man. I'm glad it's established. You're just that enjoyable, says Dan. Replying to me about people not getting bored about me being here. For me, I like how chill you are compared to other streamers. Thanks. Well, I will admit it is quite challenging. I'm not trying to follow the major trends that every other streamer do. I'm not playing the latest release in games. I am not doing the sexy dancing and the showcasing of the body in movements because I am a terribly inept dancer. I am non collaborative. And all I do is really talk. And heck, I can't even cuss on my streams. It's a little challenge I've given myself. So yeah, I hard mode, chat. Hard mode. Not very flexible either. Hey, I am working on my flexibility. Flexibility, huh? Gotta keep myself limber enough to function. That's what matters. Hello, Dip. Your voice is very soothing to listen to, so that makes things easy. I suppose there's that going for me. Thanks to those of you that find how I sound pleasant. Flattering, really. Gosh. I can confirm, chat. Oh, Molly here knows me quite a bit. We haven't caught up in more than a decade, though. I'm sure things have changed since then. But at its core, Geb is still Geb. Remember when we met around, 20 or more years ago? Yes. Same old. Your voice is also a factor, as others say. I think it's good to sometimes not be with the times. Oh, look at me. I am going for the whole vintage-esque feel of things. Noir, as some people call it. Purposely dated. Well, I guess a lot has changed. Maybe. Well, probably the one thing that hasn't changed is the verticality, hasn't it, Molly? Oh, petite, Winrard, compressed. I jest. It's the Gib. How are you doing? And how is it going? I'm doing okay. Calibrate my finger tracking real quick. There we go. There we go. I always think that it's Friday today. It's actually Thursday. No, it's technically Friday, but it's, yes. My body feels either it's Friday or midweek, right, Pascal? It must be strange for someone like you who is primarily on an aircraft that ferries people all around the world and, well, you're in time zone A, time zone B, and time zone C in a very short span of time. How how do you handle that? Oh, you could be like me where I'm timeless. I'm in a room with no sunlight permeating, so it's permanently nighttime here. It's Friday somewhere in the world, says Mitzi. That's very much true. It's always Friday if you close your eyes and lay down in bed. Lay down in bed. Oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? It's been a while since I've just been in VR chat and, well, lay down. Relax. Aisha. Make it more direct, shall we?
Flirting with this disaster became me. It named me as
Chat, don't make me more sleepy than I already am. Good night, Mitzi. Back you're warm, I'm cold, says Vesper. I'm about to double up on socks or grab my heater since I'm cold. If I could transfer some of the increase in temperature over at my living space to where you are, I would. A little lower on my end, a little higher on your end. Oh. Was the Wi-Fi working now? Yes. Yes, it is. Thank goodness. It was a matter of some other installer fiddling with the internet box, installing one for another person, and just haphazardly handling mine. You see, the box is like a lot of slots in it, like 20 slots for 20 residences. It just so happens my slot was in front and in the way, so they had to do that, yes. That's in my nose. Oh, the hair. It's only been 17 minutes. So let me go check how things are in general real quick. We have Ard with the very cute stickers. Big old dorky black frame glasses. And then we have Rook talking about Vegas and the haircut. Hair works best mid-length. Crystal is posting a PC case that makes coffee. Amazing and concerning at the same time. Toast sandwich with another abomination in the food channel. Got it. I see now why nobody wants to join the forces of light. Alien Schmucks subscribe with Prime. Welcome to subscription land. I hope this is one of many. I'm just joking. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Enjoy not having ads. Biggest complaint I've been getting from many people. Like, gosh, what did you say, Geb? Ads just had to interfere. Why, if it isn't Minnie, hello? Last time we talked, you were GPU less. Now you are GPU yes. How are you? Dang, time has flown fast. Oh, I see. One of my lenses are popping off. That is not good. Let me adjust real quick. Snap. Yes. Should be good for now. Dorky, breaking my heart. I never said dork was a derogatory term. Maybe it's cute, nerdy, and, well, sprightly combined in one. Ended up retrieving my heater from the closet. Oh, that noisy thing. We're already 14% into 2 hours. Mathematically times 2 to 7, yes. When is Toast getting that much deserved punishment for the constant breadcrumbs? I shall revoke his sticker privileges for X amount of days. Dan says, I hate ads. But then again, it's a source of income for you, right? I earn like what, $10, $14 a month from ads. It's, if I could turn it off, so it's more convenient for everyone, I would. Is what I would hypothetically say because Twitch is probably monitoring what I'm saying. And of course, I don't want them to like not have income, right? I watch so many streamers. Twitch Turbo is a necessity. It's been amazing, says Minnie. And that background music is from Expedition 33. You're breaking my heart. Let's go with that. Expedition 33. Maybe my temperature's a tad bit too warm. There we go. Bit more in the yellow spectrum. Still looks fitting. Hello, Mox. Grocery-tastic you are always. Noisy old, but keeps me warm, especially when my room is so poorly insulated and only has one vent for AC and central heating to access from. I see. Must feel nice. I remember waking up to a particularly cold spell where my AC was also at full blast. What I did was grab my hairdryer and then like pull the collar of my shirt and then aim it inside and let it go at full blast at full heat. My goodness, what did it feel like, the warm embrace of the divines itself. No Vesper today. I hope she's doing well. She is busy with schoolwork. That's one way to heat up, right? Most direct. Not so grocery-tastic recently, says Smalls. I'm quite sick right now. Goodness gracious. I hope it's not a bad combination of food you also love. You go get the rest and medicine that you require in order for you to recuperate, alright? Well, that helps. Well, you can stick around stream. Sorry, Gab, I gotta run. I hope to hear some nice advice on Insta soon. Nice advice? If you don't want your brain to rot, don't watch Brain Rot. I'll be there soon enough, just getting schoolwork out of the way. No rush, Vesper, no rush. I do remember I have to go converse with a particular individual as well later. Not sure if they wish for me to have company or not. Have to check. And what if your brain is already rotted? You can still save it because you're still functional, right? Like a plant that is shriveled from the lack of sunshine and water, yet still not completely letting go of life and hope. I too am doing schoolwork right now, says Dan. I should leave, but I don't want to. You can always set my stream to low so that your brain isn't focusing on this, and just have me as white noise instead, and do your schoolwork. Win-win, right? Vesper says, unfortunately my bio work has to wait because of a discussion with too few responses from peers. And the discussion requires 3 responses to my peers. Only one other peer. How many times have you used the word peer in this statement? Only one other peer has responded, so it's just a waiting game. I see. Has any game ever got you emotional? Near Automata is one. Expedition 33, even though I'm not yet finished with the game. Goodness, even the prologue itself got to me. There's quite a bunch, in all honesty. But then I won't see your expressive avatar. Do you want to see my expressive mug? Or would you want to pass your grades? Priorities. Oh my golly, it's Mr. Gebus. Not Gebus, Gebus. Good evening. Sounds like a very accurate group work session. I'm happy I don't have any schoolwork anymore, says Eternal Foxy. Right? It's so nice not having to worry about. Oh, wringing my brain dry from having to solve the likes of algebra and whatnot. Man. I'm gorging myself on cheese. The road to flatulent recovery, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why not both? I did offer a compromise, did I not? Rook says college and I did not get along. Thankfully, I prefer blue collar work anyway. I see. I can't say I love my college years 100%. I mean, I had to repeat several classes and pay for some that I did not think was worth it. Whoever pays like $1,000 just in order for you to do community service? Well, that was not for me to burden, but whoever was paying for my tuition at the time. I dropped out twice and got kicked out once. Delinquent. Let's see. Good camera angle. Here, no, here, here. Hi. Bit close, isn't it? Go lurk, Starwall. Let's stick with this for now. Oh, I'm sitting on my stool again. It's not quite as comfy as I expect it to be, so I'm gonna be standing up. Standing up. Having it up here. Better. Now, where were we? Your avatar looks silly. Up close. Oh, does it not? Strange. I'm now conflicted whenever people say your avatar when I'm playing myself so deeply at this point. And I never really swap avatars either. I'm just me. You see, I don't. How should I say this? I'm encroaching that territory, aren't I? If I say that I don't feel like this is a mannequin I'm pulling the strings for. I hydrate, of course, sure. Gosh, so toasty today. They just want you to stoops. They just want you to step on them. Step on them. Why? And who? So good. Don't spill. Don't worry. Everything's in my. Almost said something dangerous. No, it's okay. Yeah, just say you. I've been thinking about it. Like, what's Yeah, I think you can just say you. That's better. Right? He's not paying attention. I am starting to sweat up. Not good. So yes, what is going on today? Yeah, Gab, I know what you mean. Since I only have one Avi, it feels like me. Right? It's me. It's you. It feels more natural that way. I mean, I know I'm just playing pretend, but it's pretend to such a degree that, it just feels more natural to the ears to be addressed as you instead of your avatar. But it doesn't really matter. I will leave momentarily. I'll be back in a few minutes. And this is why you hydrate, yes. What is the temperature? 26 degrees Celsius. It's so toasty. I need to clean the filters of my AC. Normally, during Christmas season, the temperatures become colder here. I think as with any country, it's winter for most. Here, though, there's no winter. It's just colder, less hot. Is that Beth? My goodness, how are you, Beth? Still lacking sleep from the noisy dogs of your neighbors. I hope you've managed to catch up on some rest. Darn, please, by all means, catch up on rest now. Pascal says, personally, I feel like my fox is just a profile picture at times. But then I see my PayPal deductions and then I go cry. An expensive pursuit, truly. True. I may have took a nap in my office. A most dangerous form of time travel. More often than not, one overshoots from the chronological destination endpoint that one sets. aka a 5-minute nap turns into 3 hours. Yours truly knows this. You know, talking about playing pretend and addressing as yous or your avatars. For me, if you play your role really well, you walk it, you talk it, you look it, then by all means you deserve the title. But if you're doing such a shoddy job at it and you call yourself this and that, like, oh, welcome to McDonald's. Oh yeah, I'm a detective, by the way. Like, are you gonna believe it? It's not credible, right? So I'm all for like earn credibility when it comes to anything you wish to call yourself. If you call yourself a mechanic but you don't actually know how to like repair vehicles, I'm not gonna believe you, nor am I gonna address you as that. If you call yourself as a entertainer, a comedian, but you don't do stand-up shows, or you say you do but nobody laughs, I'm not gonna call you a comedian. We are all varying levels of stupid. The day we stop calling ourselves stupid is when we transition into what we call foolish. Because I would rather be stupid and eager to learn than consider myself accomplished and with my books closed. Connection is acting up for me. I'll leave for the evening. Have a good time with the Gab, lovely internet people. See you around, Pascal. I can fix flying machines. For me, really, if just put effort into whatever you call yourself. Make me believe that you are what you say you are, and I'll call you what you are. Because if you just tell me that it's incorrect what I'm addressing you with, but I don't feel like calling you that, you're forcing me to conform to you. Earn that forklift certification. It's 12 degrees Celsius right now, says Vesp, or 53F. Why is that such a I wish Fahrenheit was just a multiple of Celsius times 2, but no. So it's 10 degrees Celsius right now, and I'm quite the opposite of not unmaking my bed. 10 degrees Celsius, I would be wrapped in my blankets with my phone just barely peeking out like that. Art says, in my mind, Pascal is always in an airplane, so I assume they're watching from 30,000 feet in the air, right? I don't know. The rest of the world uses Celsius. And then I references the most easy thing that we can see. 0 degrees Celsius, the thing you drink that is readily available everywhere, freezes. 100, it boils. "50 degrees Celsius above, your skin starts to suffer damage." It's sort of like a threshold. Right? Isn't it cool? Like, the moment it hits 0, it's when you know snow and ice and whatnot is there. That is such a convoluted thing. I'd rather stick to my Celsius. Yo, yo, yo. Hi there, Mystic. Greetings. Considering how at worst the temperature can be negative 24 and beyond here, you're going to be a popsicle during my winter. I would be in the sheets, pulling you within so I can access your body warmth while I try and survive for as long as I can in your wintry world. That's true. I never. Can't we just work with a unified system instead? Like, why don't we just follow what the majority of the world uses, right? Hello, teacher. It's negative 25, you feel your nose hair freeze solid. Ah, true. That's true. There's Kelvin, isn't it? Like the absolutes and whatnot. Uh-huh. To have wintry adaptations to various environments, yes. Hmm. You guys are used to the cold. Here, our comfortable sleeping temperatures is around 24 degrees Celsius. 26 is like, it's okay. And then 24, 22 is like when you need blankets to just sleep nice and sound. But then again, here we are suffering like 40 degrees Celsius, like average temperatures outside. So, yeah, I would very much prefer the cold over the heat. Why? Heat makes you sticky, icky, and you can't dress well and nice. I can't even wear jackets here. And poor old bikers, because we have to wear the summer variant of motorcycle armor. which is just essentially glorified fishnets with armor in them. I believe it would be easier to adjust to the cold. Because with heat, humid heat, you lose moisture really, really quick. You get dehydrated, you get irritable, you make bad judgments. Has it ever snowed there? No. But we did have some freak weather before where there were both tornadoes and hailstones. Odd, right? I like the cold better, says Beth. You can put on a lot of layers, you can only take off so much before you get accused of being indecent. Here, it's the opposite, Beth. You go to the Philippines, walk around the neighborhoods, you're usually gonna see most of us topless here. The men, at least. Yep, just nice old shorts. We have our shirts in hand, not on our body, and then we're just making it spin in order for air to fan towards us. Probably while enjoying a barbecue or something. What's this? Hello, Vanya. That sounds dreamy to me. I mean, Ard prefers the cold. Rook says in a month or so it's gonna be a frozen hellscape for a long while. I'd still be working outside in my old job. I see. Are you fluent in Filipino? An odd question to ask. Why? Are you? Yes. Okay. Bakit? Bakit mo natanong? Hmm. I'm hoping to go to Arizona next year, says Dorn, where in the summer the normal temperature is 45 degrees Celsius. You see, that's okay because it's dry heat. It's the desert. Humid heat is twice as bad. 25 degrees Celsius of humid heat, accompanied by mosquitoes, ain't exactly a delight when you're outside in the mountains enjoying nature, or try to sit outside by your porch. Nothing but grass and the crickets outside, and those blood sucking little things on your arms, legs, and neck. Vesper says, yeah, at least here you're going to be harassed if you're a woman running around in a sports bra to deal with the. I thought it was much more liberated in America, like people don't really care how little you dress. I've seen the beaches of America. I've seen the beaches of Brazil. Oh my goodness. Anyway, yes. Waffle says, yes, with winter the fashion game gets better and cooler. Also, no bugs walking around. Here. Fashion. Coats. Leather jackets. A dream. There is. In the upper part of the Philippines, though, oddly enough, the temperatures are like 19 degrees Celsius or less on an average day. It's just in the middle part by Metro Manila where I am, central, the temperatures rise to such a degree, it's terrible. Vanya replies to me asking if I'm fluent in Filipino and goes, nah, I just saw your TikToks and mentioned the Philippines. I like your talks, by the way. Maraming salamat. 14 degrees Celsius here, it's quite nice. Yes, yes, you folks go enjoy your nice temperatures. Oh, my country would be a much, much more peaceful place. All 99% of the road rage incidents would probably disappear if it was that cold. Yeah, just wear a white leather jacket. I used to. It was had like sheep fleece in it or something. It was very soft and fluffy. Unfortunately, when I took it off, it turned into a wet rag. The liner absorbed all my sweat. I live in the Middle East as Pascal, so in August days go up to 46 in the evening, and the humidity condensates on your skin before you sweat. It's horrible. Swamp heat, right? It's a little 50-50 here, says Vesper. You can dress how you want, but catcalling is still a very prevalent issue here. I mean, it's the States, it's Westerners. Hmm. Like, will you look at that? Hey, toots! Okay, maybe that may be a bit old, but. Vanya says, your voice and the way you talk is very calming. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying. Always flatters me when people say it's soothing. Come to Costa Rica then, Cap, says Pascal. 19 to 29 all year long. And the food is very similar with lots of hills and mountains for the Africa. Oh my god, you had to remind me I don't have a bike parked over at the garage in which I could just. Ah, damn. Oh well. What? Oh, to be bikeless. I can't even do the simple things like visit the shops around me. It's okay. No, we'll get the bike in time.
Almost blue,
In time.
almost doing things we used to do.
It was nice to chat for a bit. I'm gonna go back to watching a movie I started earlier, says Darren. Enjoy a movie, Darren. See ya. The heat in the PH is annoying because it's humid. Ang lagkit. Malagkit. Kadiri yung hangin natin. At mas kadiri yung taong malagkit na tumidikit sa atin. Bye, Doran FX. Right, the renaming. That happened, didn't it? I'm gonna cry out. Think of it as flattery. Oh, speaking of copium. Thank you so much, Fluffy. A daily reminder that you are most excellently handsome with your present form.
Almost touching it will almost do. There's a part of me.
I remember showing Vesper. I have like a device in my kitchen. It's the anti-choke emergency thing. I turned on my video. And then I said it was the copium. I remember her laughing her ass off. It was like an oxygen mask with a plunger on the end. Speaking of copium, I'm sure most of you have picked up about Samsung's new VR headset, the Galaxy XR. Congratulations, you now have the Quest Pro 2. Fortunately, it doesn't ship to other countries outside of the US from what I've seen. And I got hold of a $180 discount too, knocking it down to 1.6K instead. And then I saw the delivery, like, it doesn't ship to me. I did it. I wasn't gonna order it. I just wanted to see if the discount was gonna work. All my spending, this thing, is going to the two-wheeler that I also sordidly need. Two, I'm quite happy with the Quest Pro. Yeah, sure. I'm a little envious because they now have like essentially the better version of what we're wearing. But I am reminded of people in my community who are stuck with Quest 2s and whatnot, but are perfectly fine. Heck, one of our friends there named Axel Tailbot, he still uses the CV1, the Quest 1, which, well, it recently broke, so he's gonna have to replace it. But amazing, right? We have Beth here who still was using the was it the Vive Cosmos? Was it during our few meetups? But now you have a big screen on the way. 3, didn't you order a big screen? Damn! Why does Beth remember? Yes, the big screen is actually already there since the other day. I've tested it, chat. 1, it's super comfortable. It's so light you can actually lie down and sleep with it. 2, well, you don't have to worry about batteries anymore. It's permanently tethered. We can't use it wireless, which is also a con. 3, OLED is nice, but if you want something with no blurriness, like smearing, it's gonna be a tad bit darker than the Quest Pro. The one biggest gripe I have about it is the hardware is ready but the software is not. Big Screen has yet to have eye tracking that's on the same degree as the Quest Pro. I can sleep with the Quest Pro. Fluffy must have an indentation on the back of his head in order for the big old bulge not to bother him. Oh, that sounds terrible being mentioned. So Fluffy here doesn't mind the bulge. Got it. Sleeping soundly, eyes closed. Though to be fair, I did fall asleep a few times in the Quest Pro, but that's when I was most sleepy. Hi, Axiom. Speaking about discussions, we were talking about headsets earlier. Axiom says, yes, the Ancients. Beth's Vive Pro from 2018. Pardon, I was, well, incorrect with the information. To look at the kitchen screen door, based on what I've read, I am most excited for you to get your big screen, Beth. But given a chance, chat, if I see the headset being sold here and I could magically refund my big screen, I would get that Samsung Galaxy XR. Why? Because my headset, the Quest Pro, is over 2 years old. It's not being produced anymore. There's no way it can be replaced by warranty. So once it's broke, it's broke. And in order for me to continue streaming, I need hardware that's actually reliable and works. That's not the big screen beyond. If it's just for social VR and you don't mind the lack of face tracking, then go for it. But for me, unfortunately, it's what puts food on the table. You could write big screen about the 14th day. The thing is, actually, it was sitting for a while over at my friend's place in the States, and it was shipped more than a week later, and I think it's more deserving if it goes to somebody I know, love, and could trust. That would actually enjoy it. I used to sleep in Quest as Mox. Then I got my index and modified it with the face tracker. Oh, you have the VFT? Nice. Excuse me. I just saw you on TikTok and it turns out you're actually live. Heck yeah. I wonder if I should start making announcements on my other social media platforms. Hey, Gab is live. And then I get shadow banned from the algorithm. That seems to be the trend. The big screen can have facial tracking. I know. I have the Babel tracker somewhere in the ether. It's been what, half a year and it's still not yet here. Now, well, also the big screen does not have eyebrow tracking, which is important. Would help. That's how I found myself here. I would probably go maybe on Twitter, post it and then delete it, and that's why I advertise my Discord. Join me there so you can have pings on when I'm live. Type exclamation point Discord in chat right now and you will get the link. Yes, I'm actually active there every day. What's a very baity thing? Lots of exclusive content, videos, images that you'll never see me posting in social media. And you realize it's just me in a wheelchair or doing some dumb thing. Vesper says, I have until March before my warranty expires. I still have luck on my side if something happens. You take care of your Quest Pro, it'll be fine. My Quest Pro, more than 2 years old, like 2 years and a half, it's 2 years and not a half, like a month. I've been using it for exercise, 15-hour stints in VR chat during my first year, and yes, more. Hello. It's still working fine though. It's just the dreaded corrosion part that I'm worried about. I used to sleep in VR with my Quest 2. Having a Meta Quest Pro hasn't stopped me from taking short naps during hangouts though, since I'm a side sleeper. I think I scared Matthew last time because every time my name was mentioned, I would be eyes wide open awake. Like, yes, like that singing mic test. Yes, actually. That one. I just ripped my favorite pants. I hope you have a spare. Normally I advise my high-calorie friends to wear jogging pants instead, the nice stretchy ones, never jeans. My index is like 3 years old, continues Mox. Take care of your things and they will last. Precisely. I can't speak for the software though. That's Meta with its software. Love you too, Meta. High calorie, what do you mean, Gib? That's my polite way of calling my fat friends fat. That's what duct tape is for. Precisely. Also, I will dropkick Arthur, CEO and founder of Somnium. Giant update for the VR1, still no eye tracking. Oh my god. No, I mean, look, I was comparing the pants ripping to my friend. Yes, the same friend I was telling you about before, who I was eating. What was that? What's shomai in English again? Dumplings with in college. He would often have his pants ripped all the time because for some odd reason, despite his rather rotund shape, he would insist on wearing skinny jeans. And, well, lo and behold, the fibrous things holding the gap, sealing his crotch from the outside world visually, decided to unravel, rip. Yes, bam. Check Discord for pants. I'm scared. Oh my god, thank you for making it clear that it's your fingers. Ah, jeans really are meant to be ripped though, in that part. Oh, well. I remember having to sit through a whole day of class with my pants being ripped the same way, actually worse. And it was not sexy, chat. The pantsification. Hmm. Skinny jeans can be lethal, right? Like when it comes in between the jewels and they decide to part. Anyway, discussion for another time. Dan says I'm like 230. Maybe I don't know accurately since I haven't measured. I just look in the mirror and are you a rectangle? Or do you have this in the middle? Yeah, but I'm classier than that. Oh, fine, gentlemen like you, I have no doubt, Mox. Also, at 140 pounds, if you're above the height of 5'3", I would call you really underweight. I'm sitting at around 195 pounds at the moment. Mm. But then again, I used to exercise fervently before, and then it tapered down. Now, I've always been not the light friend in the group. I'd rather be heavy and strong with muscles underneath than to be light but weak, scrawny. So you're 5 foot and 7 inches. Got it. With the way you structured your sentence, Mox. Crossing your legs in skinny jeans requires a warning sign, says Ludicrous, right? You can't do the where you like, swap your legs around. Right? It's a tricky ordeal. Have get the tall, handsome, strong man. I keep on telling you, I look like one of Genghis Khan's like lieutenants. You're gonna see me broad-shouldered. My hair has like the metal hair, like that goes until, well, I maintain my hair at this length now. Before it used to be like so long. It's difficult to live with thick hair that's long, chat. As someone who saw him kind of thank you for the compliment, Axiom. You look good too. I forget, how tall are you? I am but a humble 6'1". As Asians, I don't grow that tall, unlike the mutant strains of the Chinese, though, that grow like 7 feet tall. Yeah, I got the whole rock star hair. It's ironic. I love wearing black pants with lots of pockets. I wear my boots for my bike, which is also black and leather, and then a fitted black shirt. With that hair, often many of the people that see me whenever I walk to the grocery or 7-Eleven before at work would ask, "Oh, hey, you're in the band, Ryan. What do you play?" Like, no, I don't know how to play any instruments. Like, oh, I'm sorry to disappoint. Long hair like that in that weather is a death sentence. I can maintain long hair. I can't maintain long hair in hot weather. I know. And I have the long wavy hair too. The only time the crotch has torn apart in pants with me is because I had the pants for so long the thread started to disintegrate. When it starts to like chafe and then it starts to really thin out. Yes. Let's say you're the sound tech for XYZ band. Yes. Ah, yes, I'm an enthusiast of Fruit Loops. Is it Fruit Loops? I think it was Fruit Loops. Yeah, I think it's just the app to make music. I don't remember. People assume I play a bass guitar and I don't know how to feel about it actually being true. It's the stereotypes that stick around. In all honesty, I feel flattered. Ah, a big posterior. I see. Bald keeps you cool till your head burns. That's the thing. So I assume if you polish it to such a degree, Bev, it will actually deflect visible light, including the UV rays, away from your head. So the head wax makes sense now. Reminds me of your sunburn. You don't see Encephalus, correct. Plus reflection minus heat resistance. That's true. You reflect the heat, but then again, it will still burn. Sia says bald head reflections are causing global warming and we're not talking about it enough. A most valid concern. Shh, I want beachfront property. You're gonna burn the local neighborhood. Another fire over at California. Imagine you just like fell asleep on your beach chair at an odd angle. And then like the beam at like high noon just like somehow condenses and like sets aflame like a passing oil tanker or something. That would be hilarious, yes. Oh, oh my goodness. Chris Kajik replied, yay. I was asking her about the rain wet shader. Thank you again, Fluffy. My god, oh god, that's so sad. Oh, but it's appreciated. Man, when I saw your BMW, I was like, totally don't wish he gets a flat or anything. I'm just joking. I think I'm dumb, says Vanya. I couldn't verify myself in this. It's. You're gonna feel excellently dumb once you actually figure out what the password is and how easy it is to get. Hmm. It's shiny, not a magnifying glass. Yeah, it just how Final Destination works. It just somehow locks out at the perfect angle, reflecting off something concave like a beachfront property's lens-like glass, and then setting the whole neighborhood ablaze. Dan replies to Beth, maybe if you cover most of the head except a small spot, it could reflect enough light. Okay. But true, it would be more like a floodlight more than a spotlight. And I saw Fluffy's bike with a shorty exhaust. What was like an Austin, an SC project? I don't know. Uh, so, no, you still have the cat, so it shouldn't be that loud. But if you decatted it, you have like unrestricted like headers, a full exhaust system. You would have to put your foot over the exhaust while you warm up the bike in the morning as I roll out of the neighborhood. It's automatic once you get the answer. Big clue about the password on the Discord. It does not accept edited messages. You have to type a new one. A Leo Beans. I had the Leo Beans, the silver, but it's a bit longer. I think 180 mm. No, no, that's too short. It's like this. The fancy writing, Leo Beans. It was stainless in color. And I cannot take the cat off, or else I go to jail. Come on, imagine just roaring through the neighborhood, right? Vroom, vroom, vroom. Right, right. I have the biggest peepee, right? Ooh. No, officer, I didn't steal this bike. It was donated to me. Yes, by my late grandfather. He was a World War II veteran and just so happens to have a 1000cc inline 4 naked motorcycle that had a cut exhaust. Yes. I wish, replies Fluffy, but I feel bad every morning I go to work at 6 a.m. That's Harley riders in the States, that's true. That right. No, that's in Africa. Have you seen the Nigerian like Harley riders? Like you see normally hogs are like this, right? In Africa, they take it to a ridiculous. They do that. They're literally they call it monkey bars, right? Yeah, they're hanging off monkey bar. Yes, I'm not joking. Google it. African Harley riders. Ape hangers. There we go. Ape hangers. That's what they're called. I remember now. I actually roll out of my street like 100 meters before I turned. Really? My verses was super quiet though. So that's it. But then it had like the cat in it. So hello, Drax. I see. All right, stars. Wolf. Those handlebars are obnoxious. I actually prefer those over the. You know the handlebars that are just this wide? Sometimes there are handlebars. It's just one side and it's angled towards you. And then they have this thing called a suicide shifter. It's a term in like motorcycle builds. Before you go flag me Twitch. Okay, like it's a hand shifter for a bike. The strange design is. I see why it's named that way. I need to put this cheese away before I eat it in one sitting. You probably should. Hand shifter with a tiny. Why do you think it is called what I just called it earlier, see? Yeah, I like my bars nice and wide, you know, it's enduro stands. Great control. Actually, I'm having a random thought saying I kind of want to make chocolate spaghetti again. Go ahead. I hear Mystic buzzing around in VC. Oh, it's Matthew, Mystic and Vesper. Got it. Wow, that looks like an amazing beach. Dang it, I got in. Congratulations, it took you 5 minutes. The average for most people. Hmm, what's this? All I can imagine is elf. What chocolate spaghetti? Yes, mighty grandpa. It's an axiom concoction. It definitely does. The whole squad is in the VC. Please focus on straight. Yes, Vesper. Whole squad is in VC. Ooh. Hi, chat. Yes, this is Matthew speaking. I'm enjoying my vacation. Look at the beach that I'm sure you'll be envious of. Good on you, Matthew. It's a concoction of all time. Are you named the Mighty Grandpa because you're an actual grandpa? I need like an new old person to poke fun at. I thought I had your server deafened. Yeah, great. Sure, Vesp, sure. Hmm. No, I just find Grandpa funny. It's the shy sa opa. I'm gonna go to the parking lot. I'm gonna get some permanent marker and I'm gonna write it down on Fluffy's back. Shy sa opa. Quite a number of people today watching. My goodness. Hello, lurkers. Don't be shy. Come say hello. Unless you're in a comfortable spot where you can't be bothered to reach your keyboard, and don't move. Stay there. Be comfortable. Enjoy your snack. Enjoy whatever you're doing. I hope your hands are in plain view, though. That's my only request. Unless you consider 33 as being old. Getting there. A most devilish move. Hands within peripheral vision. That means that's right. Have it in the back, I guess. Hmm. Let's see. As a 33-year-old, says Rook, with obliterated knees, yeah, maybe that's a trait you and Beth here seems to be sharing. Mechatronic Dragon 2 is suffering from knee troubles. That's why he's unable to go dance as of late. Disc. You guys need to take care of your joints. Flexibility and mobility exercises go a long way. It really does. My career has been unkind to the joint, says Rook. The Call of Duty. Like the call of salary, more like it. Then again, I think anything we do does go contribute to the wear and tear of one's body. To some, it's their joints. To others, it's their shape, hence they get out of it. But to the majority, it's their mind that gets lost. Some people don't know how to stop working. Some people don't know how to get out of stressful situations in working, either by choice or not. Those that don't have the choices, the ones usually living to paycheck. Imagine working Monday to Friday, right? You only have the weekends open. Government buildings are only open on the weekdays. Ironically, they're only open when you are on your shift. So you can't do other things like pursue other applications, careers, and whatnot. At least I'm speaking for experience here in the Philippines. Sad situation.
that you promised.
Vesper says, unfortunately, blue collar and menial labor jobs like retail are severely rough on the body. I work 18 hours across 3 days and I tend to come home sore, right? Yeah, that's what led to the termination of my previous employments as Rook. Still trying to figure out where I want to go from there.
Flirting with this disaster became me. It
If only more machines could be put into the menial labor part of things and humanity into the designing and thinking part. Right. Of course, yes, I'm gonna look at Discord for the cheese mouse. Oh dear. Is that mozzarella? I hope it is. Gosh. You know, I haven't had a block of cheese in so long. Something I could just sink my teeth into. Nurse it in my mouth, chew it until all the flavors come out. Some people eat cheese or chocolate bars too quick. I'm the type to have it rest on top of my tongue and let the heat do the rest of the work. As one should be eating, it should be barbaric. Sharp cheddar. Ooh, okay. Maybe pass. I do like this. What's this cheese? Camembert? Camembert? Axiom says, I want to do some hard labor jobs. I mean, your constitution, unfortunately, does not really make it easy for you to do these things. It's the cheese that's in a circle, sliced and arranged like how you would with the pizza. Comes wrapped in foil, it's very soft. Quite nice. How many times have I been here? Still feels like home. I could use a nice Gouda or Havarti right now. You and your fancy cheeses, chat. I do want myself a nice big old block of supermarket mozzarella, but it's expensive. It's like $40. Or more, I think, actually. Gosh. Why are cheeses so expensive here? Man, I remember buying a block of mozzarella before. I saved a little bit of money for it. So, I got this stick. It was this large. The big, like the picture you showed me, Mox. I made it last 2 months. I would like fillet it ever so thinly. Put it on my little bread whenever I had. Oh, it's so good. Just put a little bit of basil on it and whatnot. The big cheese. The biggest of cheeses. I cannot be trusted around mozzarella, says Rourke. No, are you a danger when it comes to stringy cheese? Same here. I like salmon on mine. Ooh. I remember this girl in college who, well, the interest towards yours truly was quite obvious. So she would go out of her way every day to make me the most delicious smoked salmon sandwich I've ever had. It had the Norwegian smoked salmon on it, nice and orange and whatnot. It had cream cheese. It had caviar, and I think lettuce was it. But I did not know how to appreciate it back then. I thought it was just a really fancy sandwich. Once I realized how much this costed, I was like, no wonder she's being ferried around by a driver every day. She's rich. She was a short stack though. I think she was like five flat in height. Feisty. Bit of a tomboy. Huh. Cute. And then I said, you know what? If you want to grow strong and independent and tough like me, you should try going home using public transportation. I meant it more as a dare. Well, funny enough, she started joining me on the trains. She put on a brave face. Just, how you hang on like this. She's actually nervous. That's cute. I hope she's doing well nowadays. A fried camembert is a treat. The guilt and cholesterol comes after. Cholesterol. Ooh. This public transport so bad over there. Yes. I have my own motorcycle to ride home or in places. Feel the breeze. Oh, something I miss. It's been like, less than a week? No, maybe a week. I'm already feeling the withdrawals from it. Shucks. Difficult without a bike. Well, my miss is getting on top of it. Alright, start, twist, check, neutral, start, and then we're going. Man. What can we do? There was a video of a very unfortunate man who frequented the train. You may have seen it before, says Mox. He carried around a mannequin and he always talked to it like it was his friend. Wow, he's kind of really deep into that pit of his. Aren't they building a new metro line? The subway project that got cancelled. Or something, I'm not sure. It's like two cities couldn't agree with each other and then I don't know how that's going nowadays. I have as little information on it as much as I have faith. I used to live near New York City, says Mox, and had to take public trains to work. Ooh, I've seen the subways in New York. Interesting folk inhabiting it. It would be fun to ride around the bike. Just you, the road, the wind. Oh, I know. Gosh, I know.
May the come ASAP.
May the 80 come ASAP. You see this thing by Fluffy? At least he knows the plight of my soul. For a biker to be steedless. It's like a knight not having a blade to wield. Thank you, Fluffy. Oh, if it isn't Matthew. Matthew says, "Hey boss, how are you doing?" Hey boss. Hope you have a good stream. Time at Malta is awesome. Just spoke to Vesper, Mystic, and Axie. Just passed by since I'm on walk with the parents. Enjoy the rest of the stream. See you later. Enjoy your time with your folks. Collect some sand, dye it blue, put it in a jar, and tape some tape on it. Write Gebo sand. You have a souvenir. Hey boss. Please give me the. I'm gonna stop right there because I'm gonna be anti-OS. Mox continues. The video shows him getting angry with his friend and smashing a bottle of liquor over it for refusing to sit down. The video was taken a while after I moved away, but I still recommend. Oh wow, he's kind of got a screw loose. I see. Yes. Enjoy your Maltese lasagna. Hey, boss. Why? Oh man, we missed the orcs. Link that to you too. It's a little shocking to. I'll look at it later, Mox. I'll look at it after stream. Crystal walks in and says, I got my hands on some fajitas. Yummy lunch. Oh, you don't have that? Oh, too bad. And then leaves the room, you know. Hello, Crystal. Mayo and spaghetti. Not the worst I've seen. It's not bad. Quarterly pub crawl is this Saturday. What is a quarterly pub crawl? I cannot fathom the idea behind the toast sandwich, says Rook. Like, what does the third piece actually bring to the package? Beth replies, well, 2 slices of bread, 1 of toast, so it brings the crunch. But like, why not just eat the toast? Because bread brings the soft. It's not British enough, replies Ard. And Rook replies, with 3 slices of separate toast, you can put different stuff on each, like a clubhouse sandwich. Yeah, but no softness of bread. You can get the combination of crunch and soft with normal sandwich ingredients. Yup, we're gonna reset Blue's level to 0. 100%. Atrocity. Abomination. Howdy, Gavin chat. How y'all stay going? Says Crystal with a most distinct accent. How I'm doing stellar. My internet is back, and that's really the only remarkable thing I can talk about. hey, that ain't Texan. I can't. Oh, ever since Crystal replied with a howdy in Discord, I now view her as like Applejack. Is that what Gabos thinks? What Southern accent sounds like? I don't know. It was what I heard in My Little Pony. Alright, going to join. Done as much as I can for the day. Looks like Vesper's going to drop by. Okay. Applejack mentioned, yes, out of curiosity, I watched My Little Pony. Because it got such a bad stigma, the whole brony situation and whatnot. It was cringe. And then, I set it aside and said, because an animation student, let me watch it and see what it is for what it is. It was surprisingly well. It had a memorable cast, likable characters, nice art style. I didn't fawn over it or anything, but I do commend it. BRB going to eat flake. Sorry about with flake. Then I'll be back. Have fun. No, Vesper muted and deafened. She is gonna hop into VR chat. It seems Vanya did make it into the Discord indeed. I can see her introductions. 22 plus. All right. So instead of making it decimals with the months, you just it just wrote 22 plus. Smart. I don't drink coffee. Beth is going to be very sad. Laughing. What's this? Like any internet space, people can be unsavory. Truly, that is the case, is it not? Tea is always better, says Mox. Tea, yes. Now, if this thing keeps on flying, I swear I'm gonna buy that 7-in-1 receiver. maybe I, maybe I go repair my trackers. Make my. Yep, I'm gonna do that. Hmm. I need my coffee so black that it absorbs all incoming light. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna buy one of those jars of instant coffee, right? Remove the foil on top and just put enough hot water so you can dissolve everything and then drink straight from it. Enjoy your abyssal coffee. I find myself out tabbing into, well, the Discord. Oh my goodness, what did Ard? I'm gorging myself on cheese. The road to flatulent recovery, I see. Okay. I'm not I'm not incorrect though. That was quick. People making clips on the fly. Everybody's eating cheese today, says Mouse. You joke, but I've probably done something like that before, says Rook. I would consider it a success, seeing as you're still chatting here with us. Straight up the veins. Oh, God. I think that abyssal coffee would clear your bowels. Okay. Oh, who wants to join the group? Zephyr. Okay, let us read the profile. There is no bio added. That's a hard sell there, buddy. Hello, Groothy. Fluffy says, I like my coffee how I like my men, black and Got it. Hmm. Am I black? I mean, I have blue. Hmm. Sorry, a completely unrelated question to what Fluffy said. Oh, Rogue Eyes Tiger comes and says hello. Greetings. You know, for me, I love coffee. I love the smell, I love the taste, especially with cream and a bit of sugar. But unfortunately, my system cannot handle it. I just get way too much jitters. Unpleasant sensation, really. It's the opposite of anxiety meds from what I've observed. Coffee is one of those things that smells better than it tastes. Iced coffee, oh, right? Or just get your nice little container, put your straw, and you hear the clackling of the ice against each other. You get accustomed to the taste and consistency. It's hard to turn down good coffee, especially the brewed ones. I often like my coffee black as well. Am I black? Okay. I mean, Come, look, look at me. Look at me. Consistent crap. I'll stick with my tea. I like tea as well. Yeah, I like both. Desiree says I used to enjoy iced coffee often until I realized it was a constant state of panic from it. Thanks, anxiety. Brooke says an Americano, 2 extra shots, sweet and no creamer. If that doesn't jumpstart your heart in the morning, nothing will. You see, what used to jumpstart my heart in the morning was you have 23 missed calls from mom, and that's me waking up from a place that isn't my own because I was supposed to go home during that evening. Memories. Or when you're there during the end of term, you gonna check your grades, and then there's a big old oopsie of something not passing. Big yikes. I'm thirsty again. I'm gonna have the rest of the juice. Responsibilities, yes. Mox is asking, are the Filipinos a culture ruled by the flop yielding mom? Yes. Ah, yep. I'm doing alright. Thanks for asking. Hmm. Don't forget to stretch, Chan. And I look good. Whoa. Uh-oh. Whoops. Yes, lipstick 14. Again. With a up your mind. There we go. It would be funny. No, I'm not. I won't. Maybe I can put a screen there. Let's see. Layouts. Add another one. There we go. Large, put it there. Increase the opacity. Put that there. Lock input. Great. Hold on. My knee, my thigh trackers are sliding down. Anyway, where are we? Okay. Glad to hear you're doing all right, says Roll Guys Tiger. Why, thank you. Detective down. I haven't tripped yet. You know, it's weird. In the Philippines, it's a patriarchal society, if I remember correctly. Oh, but then again, it's pretty much the moms who are calling the shots here. It's. You also often get the jokes about how the husband's gonna get beaten by by the wife all the time. Of course, it's like it's a joke in the context of a joke. I wouldn't know. I'm not married, chat. Gosh, I wonder how many people are married here in my viewers. Type 1 if you are. I'm just curious. Oh, wow, laggy. Hello. One says Kendall. All right. We have one. Come on, camera. There we go. Let's quite the distance. There we go. All right, we have one. One. That's it. Oh, did I store them all? There we go. Bunch of swingers in here. Swingers? Like fast track non-committal relationship. I don't know what that is. I remember hearing about it in some old American show, but never really understood it. Good day for me to be a better person for my Any day is a good day for you to be a better person. Definitely not married. He just got off of a 3-year relationship. I see. Well, good luck. 10 years so far. Going strong with the decade. Uh-huh. Interesting. You're spamming. Oh, okay, that's fine. I've been with many ladies too in my life. Whoops. That tugged on my controller. There we go. I'm back. You see, there's really nothing wrong with going on. If you're unsure with who you're with, you go and try the different dishes being served in a restaurant, if you know what I mean. You just check out all the cards that's available in the deck. But if you're happy with the one you meet, even though it's like your first love, then great. I feel sad whenever people say the first love you have is the one that's not going to last because it's just puppy love and whatnot. I mean, it's a relationship all the same that you can nurture and develop into something deeper and long lasting. It's an honest man. Oh, yes, I'm honest with my intentions, that's for sure. I mean, one of the keystones of any relationship is communication, right? You don't like something, you tell your partner. You want something, you tell them. You just let them know, and then you work things out with each other. Every relationship is a lesson, says Moss. And the sadness from one ending is crappy, sure. But you can't have that sadness unless you had something good. We're human, precisely. I don't mean to alarm you, there's a clacker. Hey, don't call them that, they're good people. I like my robot friends. It's easier to not lie, anyways. Hard to keep track of every lie. Precisely. When you realize your web of lies are starting to tangle up, oh boy, good luck trying to wed yourself out of that one. You know what I mean? Crystal just dropped by, got some fajitas, and then disappeared. Ugh. Biff with the shaving gif. Oh my goodness. I think something bit my cheek. It's so. It's that. Wow, already 2 hours. So quick. At least I don't have the pressure of like running out of bandwidth. Unlike last stream. Gosh, I can't believe I had like a 10 gigabyte limit before my speeds would get throttled. Like Vesper's gonna join us during the last leg of our stream. Lies will come out eventually. Precisely. But yet, some people persist. You know, I get lying. Lying out of necessity. White lies. Like, of course, I did the report, boss. But you know you can do the report in under 30 minutes remaining time and still accomplish the task. But like black lies? Mm-mm. No, of course I didn't take the money. I don't know what you're talking about. But you actually stole. Better the last leg than to not show up. Alright. Beth says decided to order some American snacks. Instead of going to the mail forwarder in Miami, it's now sitting at the random ports in California. Are you buying like chips and preserved goods? It goes quick. We had problems contacting our Indonesian properties since the AWS outage. I see. Mosquito biting my cheek. Oh my. Middlesworth chips. I hope that's good. Is there a reason I'm not allowed to post in the VR chat pics channel? You are probably below level 5, Mox. You have to be a little bit more active in the community before you're granted picture posting rights. That's there to ensure that people that join aren't just there to dump whatever they have in their gallery, but never actually interact with other people. I don't like having a Discord where people are there but not there. Oh, hold on. Hi. Oh, I see you in your casual outfit today. There you go, take a seat. White lies are harmless, says Vesper. But when it comes to serious things, it's terrible. Yeah, that's true. Just don't lie, Chad. Just say the truth, no matter how crappy it is. My BF is my first, says Axiom, and we've been together for 5 years now. It can work, right? Which view do I sacrifice? This one. What an odd angle. I'm like, stoop forward, wait. There, let's get Vesper on. Is the hat getting in the way of the light? Ves, can you turn off your hat real quick? Let me just see if the lighting changes. No, it did not. Okay. What? Hold on. There we go. Should be better. Cute. There, I suppose. How does that look on my end? But yes, chat. Welcome, Vesper. Here she is. The stream lagged for me so much. I was 20 minutes behind. What do you mean you're 20 minutes behind?
almost you,
Damn thing.
almost me.
Ah, it's a blind spot. Helloing Vesper. Yes. That's acute modo. You mean that's acute Vesper? The proper term, yes. Wait, can you speak?
Yeah.
Again.
Oh,
I think your voices are low. Louder?
hello.
Why is your voice so low?
Hold on. That might be something on my end. Is this better?
Much better. Sorry about that, chat. Gab, I am just curious. Oh, shit. Did you go to college or anything? Oh, if you were listening earlier, I did say I was an animation student. That's it. There's no real the additional explanation there. I wasn't here earlier. Ah, I see. Hard to keep track of everyone too. Yes, I was in an art school. What happened afterwards? Well, work happened. Ended up in an advertising agency for a few years after being in a call center. And then my not so spectacular homeless chapter began because I lost all my savings from my old work and trusted the wrong people. And after a year, I bounced back. And fast forward to the present, here we are now. Did you enjoy it? I loved every single day of it. I loved my college days. People dressing fancy, people talking about games, anime, everything, anything. The teachers were cool and not outdated in their mindsets. An amazing place, really. And there was air conditioning everywhere. Would you go back if you could? For what? For short-term pursuits with certain people. Maybe. But I wouldn't be here where I am right now if those sequence of events didn't occur. Right. I probably wouldn't want to touch anything written in the previous pages of my book. It might affect the story at present. Oh, yes. College. Being a broke college student. I mean, I'm rather envious. They're college students. No, they're high school students. Currently earning more with their commissions than the actual professors, teachers themselves. If I had that much disposable money back then, wow. Oh, I'm having some nasty dry eyes. Thank goodness I only have half an hour remaining. See, school back then, was an actual. There, we didn't have remote classes. That's for sure. We would have to go to campus Monday to Friday. I would be there 8 a.m. and normally I would go home at 6. That's why I took up residence near the school. I was in a dorm. The fun times was during the breaks. Sometimes I have classes with 3 hours or 5 hours in between. I would just stay in the library, either napping or I would be in the cafeteria with my laptop open. I was playing with the other people there. It was fun. I guess I was blessed to be in a good crowd. That's why. I hope that answers your question. Vesper here. Oops. Vesper here is going to college as well, but she's, well, in the modern bracket of things. She's taking things online.
Yeah, so that way I don't have to fuss with other students or, well, teachers. Because, well, as much as I do like socializing from time to time, there can be points where it gets to be too much.
Agreed.
And don't get me wrong, in my previous semesters, there was at least one professor who would sit there after class with me as I was packing my stuff, and we'd have, well, long-winded conversations, since half of them wouldn't have classes afterwards. That I'd appreciate, but at the same time, though, it's just having to eat in the cafeteria. If classes are canceled, I'm just stuck sitting there for God knows how long, when I could be doing schoolwork. Like I'm just sitting there doing my homework. And the fact that everything gets to be so loud there, even if the classrooms are like closed doors and all that, it's much more practical for me to be staying at home.
Yeah, exactly. You see, Vesper, unlike me, was not. She didn't end up with a fantastic group of people around her academia. It's a little left to be desired. Ah, Gabos on a Thursday. Yes, here I am, and you'll see me again on Saturday. I'm glad you're still around, Gib. Thank you, Fox. Glad I'm here too. Don't worry, I never fell into a pit of depression like other people, chat. Strong willpower. I complain about the little things, but it's. Thankfully, I'm able to keep my foundation, my core rock steady, even during these challenging times. Movie is done and I've returned. And so is Crystal. Movie buddies, hello. So, how was Flake? Delicious? Food with Flake, delicious? Brain. New schedule. No, I just did not have internet back on Monday, so I had to make do by streaming on Tuesday. And I stream every other day, so that's Thursday and that's Saturday. Next week it's gonna go back to my normal schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Crystal seems awfully amused. Fajitas were great. Right. I'm glad you enjoyed. I decided to rewatch Hacksaw Ridge. It is. Great film. And you did not share. Ba-bum. There we go. I did. With Flake. Of course, it should come naturally. Might watch Saving Private Ryan one of these days too. Yeah, go ahead. Good film. Yeah, visceral. Good film. So far, so good. I can pretty easily understand information here. Right, Vesper is into psychology. So she is trying to accrue people reading skills as fast as she can. And she's been doing great compared to her, how she was last year. She has made a most remarkable improvement.
Exactly.
Thank you, Fluffy. Speaking of, Fluffy, do you use tire slime on your bike? Kira was about to joke about you getting flats. Because in my bike, I used to put tire slime. It saved me a whole lot. It also seals up all of the micro punctures that it has. Like, sometimes a perfectly looking tire would lose air as the days would go on, and you'd scratch your head wondering why. When I put slime in it, it surprisingly does not do that anymore. Also works as a wheel balance. All quiet on the Western Front. Ah, yes, the point of view of Germany during World War One. It was a good movie. I don't use it. We die like men. Look, a flat is a pain in the butt to have because the adventure stops. The adventure stops and we're still alive. That's the thing. I'm curious what the syllabus would be like for psychology. I think that's a little later into the years.
Yeah. Like, I've already taken Psych 101, 102, which is developmental psychology. Honestly, though, I don't really like children. So that class is kind of difficult because there was all these videos of, well, babies screaming their full heads off for an experiment. And, well, at the moment I'm studying social psychology. Come on, what the hell?
What?
At the moment I'm studying social psychology, so basically the...
Okay. Go on.
Basically
lost your
the
train of
way
thought.
that people interact, think about others, the mindset behind that.
I see.
So, yeah.
Yeah, being a bully. No, she doesn't know I'm simply doing the point of view. How am I gonna make my
Someone
point
drifting
of view
down to the
natural?
pause.
Look at me, look. See, I do this often in streams. You should know by now. Somebody needs to catch up on how I do things, or else she's not gonna appear in streams anymore. Professional streamer, yes. I get, I get hit a lot off stream. Don't worry. Get the flip flop. Oh my god. I remember talking
I
about
don't
the
have
worst
a...
punishment I ever received when I was a child. What would be yours, chat? Man. Ooh. Oh my god. What? Yes. Yes. In my first year of college, I took a psych course. It was interesting for sure. I've, you know, I've always had the idea that in order for you to pursue anything that involves human behavior, like psychology, for example, you yourself must have the innate ability to actually read people. If you suck at it and you just depend completely on what the academia is going to tell you, I don't think you're gonna make a very good psychologist. Sometimes there are people out there with no educational background that are better therapists and counselors than the ones with actual like degrees and whatnot.
And,
Unlike
well, I'm pretty confident that I'd be good as a psychologist because, well, I was taught how to read people from an early age, you know? Didn't really understand as a kid, so instead I was taught.
yes, yes. And you gotta cut Vesper some slack. She's what, in her second year? She's also got fantastic grades, Chad. No worry. Same can't be said to me, though. Mm. Yes, Mr. Repeater of mathematics classes. Gosh. Oh, Marnage, that's always been there. The geolocation. Monk says my worst was probably being put on restriction from my dad for sneaking into a military bow. Okay, you deserve that. It was right on the other side of our backyard fence. We grew up near a nuclear ship. That's impressive. That's so cool. I was put in my room for 2 weeks, continues Moss, and only allowed to go for school, dinner, and bathroom. That's it. No TV, no games, nothing. I was put there to think about what I've done. I see. That's the worst. It was the mental anguish. Me, aside from being grounded, like, no TV, no games, no nothing. I didn't even have internet. I couldn't read manga or whatnot. There was the religious aspect involved. They would let me kneel in a flat basket full of salt while reciting the rosary 3 times over. It was an ordeal that lasted at least 3.5 hours, to the point where my knees were bleeding, making the salt wet and dissolve, which in turn makes the wound sting some more. All that for simply putting some clothespins on the ears of my dog because I thought it was funny. I was what? 9 years old? It's tough here. Mitzi says the worst punishment for me was a slap on the face, but I deserved it at that time, so lesson learned. I don't swear to your mom once you disconnect the internet because you're not doing what you ask. Oh yeah, 100%. Strict parents, super. The amount of times I was allowed to socialize with friends in a party, like, oh, there's a birthday party, and then during the entirety of my high school was probably 2 times. That's it. I was not allowed to go out and mingle and whatnot. I had very stunted social growth. That's why when I got to the college and my eyes opened to how repressed I was. If you grew up with parents that serves you milk and honey as long as you're working by their terms and you shape up to how they want you to be, the career, person you have to love and marry, values and beliefs, yeah, it doesn't leave much room for thought. Then again, college hit, my mind got free, and I took the first chance I could to find work, and I never went home to this day. Yes. That's why I'm pretty much averse to any form of like hard preaching of religion whatsoever. Because religion was used as a, well, it was used as a controlling tool for my entire youth. Lies and threats. Yeah, terrible. Rook said I went through all of high school without doing any homework, but aced tests. I was grounded for grades but still passed. Crystal says my mom was very overly protective of me, so I was homeschooled and had literally no friends. College was an eye opener. That's the proper term, an eye opener. That's also the time when you start seeing the friends that you wish you could be with more than family. Yeah, more often than not, these people are the ones across the world. Mox has a saying, as twigs bend, that's how the tree grows. Walk in the same old path. You can do what they say you want to. You're just living in their past, right? Oh, Geb, because you did not decide to be a priest or a, armed forces pilot, the angels and Jesus are very sad about your decisions and you will no longer be blessed in every step of your life. Yeah. Sure, mom. My friend became family. I like that one. And I'm happy for you, Crystal. True. It's sad to see religion used as a controlling tool, even though it should be used more as a guide and a follow. You must do this kind of. And look, man, religion is a man made thing. To what control? Look at it historically. Biggest scam that everybody falls for.
Hmm. I mean, heck, that was even a topic in a recent psychology assignment. How
Yeah.
people use religion as, well, a means for hate, a means for, well,
Right?
doing
You
what
mix
they
in.
thought was right because that's what their religion says, but in reality, it's more of a something that you can interpret as you will, you know? My
Exactly.
dad had to study the Bible to get his degree. Heck, you know, just take it as you will. But at the same time, though, people just use it as an excuse for hate. I'm not saying everyone does, but yeah.
Not everyone does. I applaud the people that follow the good tenets of a religion, the good values, right? Love your fellow man. You go out of your own way to help those less fortunate than you are. Basic humanitarian things, right? It's a little like a convoluted lesson in common sense and empathy. Yeah, the golden rules, the golden rules. But when it comes to the hard preachings and the no's and the threats and whatnot, disclaimer, I'm Filipino, chat. The Philippines has been, well, for more than 3 centuries, the Spaniards used religion to control us. Christianity. That's why we're a very religious folk. To the point that it's detrimental because we leave everything like under God's will. Like whatever happens in my life, I leave it to you, oh Lord. Oh, I'm suffering. I'm like have a terrible career and whatnot. Oh Lord, I know this is all part of your grand big plan. No. Oh, when fortune will fall into my lap as the Lord will. No, you work on it. You use rational decisions to get the good things you want in life and whatnot. So yes, Colonizers, am I right? That's why I'm really scared of what's going on in like Europe. I'm glad Japan has their new prime minister. Iron fisted when it comes to like no immigrant yuck no. Shoo! Japan first. Can't say the same about what's happening in Europe now. But I shall not delve into politics. I've already dipped my toes into it in this topic, but I shall go deeper no longer. I will go with my stance of I'm not talking about things that may cause clout. Again, though, I'm not saying I dislike people that are religious. No. It costs you nothing to be polite to your fellow human being. Right? Much like grandma who believes that talking to plants will make them grow better. Can you dislike her for it even though it's not true? No, you just go with the flow. And yes, grandma. Yes, babushka. I shall talk to the trees too. Because you love grandma. More than that. Oh, okay, you're a bit close. Let me fix the camera again. What's with that punk sit? Okay, here.
I'm just chilling out because remember we did the whole little fix with my tracking and all that, so I'm not gonna exactly just shoot if I lean over.
Yes. Kindness above.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's not really kindness above all. Kindness will get you into trouble. That's what got me homeless. Kindness and trust. It's common sense above all. Protect your bases. Fend for yourself. Why? Always put yourself first before anybody. Why? How can you say you can be there for someone else when you cannot even stand on your own strongly and proudly, right? Before you solve other people's problems, solve yours first. How can you feed a hungry family when you yourself are going hungry first? Right? It's the sad truth of how we must survive. Always put yourself first. It does not mean that you should not care about your fellow man. No, you simply must learn priorities. Fatal empathy over empathy, which is what's happening over at the West from what I've seen, is the cause of their downfall at the moment. I'm sure you're well aware of the issues that's going on. All in the sake of acceptance and whatnot. No, put yourself first. Gosh. I cannot stress that enough. It's simple. Put yourself first means growing shoulders broad enough to bear the burdens you have and having enough capacity to bear the others too, should you choose so willingly so. He made another toast sandwich, yes. He's a young man. Let him do what he wants.
His dietary habits are not any of our concerns.
Yeah, he's yes, he's blue. Living up to the nickname precisely. We gotta stop him while he's still young. There's still time to save him, that's true. He has fallen into the cult of the toast sandwich.
Mm.
You know what's funny?
Kindness has its limits.
He's fallen so deep into it. When was the last time you heard him bring up, The girl best friend. It's all about the toast sandwich now. Gosh. Mock says, as George Michael said, how can my best be good enough? Then how can it be good enough for two, right? Loose eating habits. The yin to the yang of the light side. I don't even know why he's in the light side. He should be in the forces of darkness at this point.
Nah, he should be in the forces of butter.
Oh my god. Yep,
He's too. Yeah, he's too evil for the light side, but at the same time, too good for the dark side.
We don't want him in the dark side. See, even the demons don't want him.
Forces of butter.
Yuck. Gonna be like, look at you, neophyte, freshly scraped to join the butter. And then like they're gonna do like an initiation ritual, right? He's gonna the neophyte is gonna be on their knees and everything. Then like high priest Toast is gonna be there. Just give him the ritual scrapings. 1, 2. Yes.
Oh god.
Mhm.
No.
Rook says, I cannot abide by Blue's culinary crimes. I'm being pushed to the darkness. We are scared of him, says Dorian. An anti-hero. He's not even an anti-hero. He's just...
Chaos incarnate.
He's... Yes. Oh.
That you promised with your eyes, I see in yours too. Now
He is butter incarnate. He has to churn himself every day to keep fresh and butter. That's an ugly visual that I just had. Never mind. Right, forget what I just
I don't
said.
think I want to know.
Sorry, but I cannot associate myself with that. These are words you need to tell him. The cream floats to the top. Oh, like he drinks all the room temperature butter water that comes up from the churn. Mhm. Anyway, I love how our stream is going into that conversation. We have 1 minute left, chat, and let's try to cap off the night with something pleasant. Yes. Ugh.
Already sleepy?
Nah, just yawning.
Looks like someone needs to eat after stream then.
No, I'm not hungry.
Oh,
I need to get off my plastic stool. That's what.
I guess it's just me who needs to eat then.
How about you go eat?
I'll go eat after stream.
Just being stubborn, chat. Yes, we're
I'm
gonna
not
end stream soon
absolutely-
anyway.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely starving, so I can hang out, don't worry.
Nope. Okay. Chat. I don't know how to recover from the topic we just discussed. Gosh, my apologies. Oh man. Lauren says, also today I made some fresh bread. It's hard to enjoy warm, fresh made bread with butter because of the horrors of the buttercrats, right? So you have to buy brand new butter each time instead of like getting the thing that's been sitting in your pantry for a long while. I'm color me curious. I wonder who's online. I can actually check Twitch now. Fantastic. I have two Clips Manager open. Let's see. Battle World. That's nuts. Look at the top row. All of these bodacious babes. Okay, and I am running out of battery in my headset. What? Can't be, that's too quick.
Forgot to swap battery packs.
No, it just runs out at 2 hours and a half, so hold on while I go grab my spare. Look at Vesper for now, chat. Ain't she cute? Hi.
Or sit next to me while you swap things out, huh?
Yes, because you are closer to the actual table in which the power bank is located. There we go. Nice and dandy. So, how do we say this? Well, stream's over, chat. Come on, skedaddly do. Go, shoo. Thank you for joining me. Nothing special is gonna happen. Not gonna extend or anything. Still hoping for a Vesper stream one day. I'll probably just put the camera on her the entire time. She can take over. Hello, Chaspy. Are you gonna stay on VR for a bit? That is the plan. I have some interesting art discussions to be made with a certain someone. And catching up with Vesper too and whatnot. Can't get rid of me that easily, you know that. Don't you need some sleep, Mitzi? Extensions of stream times. Here, couldn't you give me, please? I'm always on time when it comes to ending things. Also, hold on. Okay, Vesper, take over. I am adjusting my wristing.
Alrighty.
Yep.
So I guess ask as you will. It's Gab's, well, doing his own thing.
Yes. Why did my headset battery disappear from the list of... It's just the controller, so I guess I'll be guessing from now on.
The overlay thing on your wrist? Yeah, it
It disappeared.
never says anything about controller battery for me.
Mine's the opposite. I have controller battery. But now my headset is not there. Weird. You're leaving, I just got here. Go ahead. How about you go work on Nord's model, Crystal? Disclaimer, I don't have a huge social battery today. I cannot accommodate big group meetups at the moment. Okay. At least I'm honest, right? But yes, normally, Chas, my stream lasts around 2 hours and a half, and we reach that mark. Sometimes when we are lucky, I go a bit longer, but That's not a guarantee. When might there be a meetup? I am planning on having one next week, at least to celebrate October's end. Have a little Halloween thing going on. Maybe go to some spooky stuff like we had before. It would be fun. I'm just trying my best to hold it off because I wish Litza could join us and perchance Beth too. Oh, speaking of Litza, there she is. It wouldn't be right not having her along with like spooky stuff. But aside from that, maybe there's the horror meetup and then there's just the general community meetup. I know you guys want to go intermingle again just like last time. Don't worry, we'll make that happen, okay? Yeah, peer pressure. Please, I'm not pressuring. Let's do anything. Right. You most definitely attend. Oh, it would be so disappointing if she doesn't. I'm joking, Liz. But yeah, sometime planned end of the month. It's just a stain upon the light. Anyway, okay. Going back to reading chat. Chat! I'm not gonna super extend today. In fact, I'm going to keep on schedule. Thank you for joining me in today's stream. So, well, let's let Vesper say goodbyes first. Get on Vesper. It's rare that we're both in the same frame.
Yeah, true. Alright. Bye, chat. Stay safe, sleep plenty, and make sure to stay hydrated.
Go drink your water, chat. It's you too. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and most of all, good night. I'll see you around Doran, Fox, Gurglarg. Like a gargly name. Kendall, Fluffy. Fluffy, thank you so much for keeping the stream afloat tonight. And to Ivan, Drax, Waffle Carp. I didn't know you were still here, Drax. Axiom, Crystal, Rook, and Mitzi. Everybody else, yes. And to the lurkers too in the back. I'm sure you're about to go close my tab. Yes, you should, because you most definitely are not gonna see any form of extensions today. And yes, and again, she also has to go eat some food. So there's that. Here, it's substitute.
Nah.
But yes, toodles, everybody. I'll see you again Saturday. Don't worry. This is my midweek stream. I make it up to you for missing Monday. So without further ado, bye bye, chat.